All right, good afternoon everyone. Hopefully everyone's having a good time downstairs or around the corner in the Innovation Hub and had some tours. We've got a small group here. We'll leave the door open for a few more minutes to see if anyone else is coming in. My name's Sam. I head the transportation infrastructure segment for Schneider in the Pacific. So the adage of planes, trains and automobiles and whatever else is left over, ports, etc., is my remit. I think decarbonisation in transport is a hot topic, and it's certainly a topic that we need to address. And it's not only urban transport like buses and trucks that are contributing to emissions, but also other modalities as well. So each one of them has a part to play in the decarbonisation of transportation. And today we've got a very important person inside the Schneider world. Our global solution architect for airports is here with us, Andrew Douglas, who will come up to stage in a second, and he'll go through what we feel is the journey towards decarbonisation of airports. So welcome, Andrew.
Hi everybody, it's great to be here, and it's great to be up and talking about airports, my favourite topic. So we've heard a lot about sustainability today. I think it's been one of the key themes of the Innovation Summit, and as Sam rightly said, I'm just going to move across. Transportation is a big area that does require decarbonisation, as well as buildings, as well as the grid, and many other parts of our society. So transportation accounts for 24% of all CO2 emissions globally. So it's a quarter of the emissions, so it is quite a big part. And if you take out the elephant in the room, which is road and road transportation, and take a look at the remaining modalities, aviation is second at around 39%, or say 40%, closely followed by ports or shipping. So why should airports be concerned about decarbonisation? What are the reasons for decarbonising for an airport in the aviation industry? One of them is environmental responsibility. So it's the reputation of the airport. Some of them are very concerned with their reputation and are looking to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. There's regulatory compliance. So governments around the world are taking a look at the targets they've set for net zero and taking a look at what regulation needs to be put in place to ensure that all the different emitters and the different industries are moving towards that target. There's some public pressure and community pressure. I think there's some calls within certain circles to say, maybe aviation is a luxury we can do without. It's not really, necessary for us to be flying around the place all the time. There's other modes of transportation. But really, aviation brings the world together, it brings the world close. We need that ability to meet face to face and to travel around the world. So I see it as essential. And as I said, airports want to be part of that solution, not part of the problem. Look, decarbonising can also lead to efficiencies as well. If you're more operational efficient, if you're more energy efficient, you are using less carbon emitting fuels and energy. And that can also improve the bottom line as well. And future proofing. A lot of this has to do with taking a look at where regulation may head, taking a look at what governments may do in the future as far as the pricing of carbon, as far as putting in certain incentives and initiatives, and making sure that the airport is in a good place for any changes that may occur in the future. So if we take a look at airports and where the emissions are occurring, you've probably heard about Scope 1, Scope 2 and Scope 3. I'll give a quick introduction. So, Scope 1 emissions are the emissions directly released at the airport that are in the airport operator's direct control. Scope 2 is through the purchase of things like electricity, or in European markets, it could be hot water from district heating plants as well. But it's mostly electricity in the Australian market. And Scope 3 is everything else that goes into the functioning of an airport, including emissions from the airlines, from the aircraft. Now, probably not quite mentioned here, but Scope 3 is the elephant in the room. It is known to account for about 98% of the emissions in and around the airport, a lot of that due to the aircraft. So reducing it, what is the airport industry doing to address decarbonisation and moving towards net zero? So ACI, Airport Council International, released, I think, a decade and a half ago, the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program. It was a way of allowing airports to have a structure in place that worked for them to decarbonise and to move towards reducing their carbon emissions. So the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program run by ACI is dedicated to airports, it's not from any other industry, and most major airports in the world have signed up to it, including, I think, pretty much all the Australian airports. So they have 5 different levels, and we're going to quickly go through what those levels are. Now, the next slide will talk about the level, which I'll cover, and also takes a look at some of the solutions where Schneider can help at that particular level and going forward. I will cover those in a bit more detail afterwards, so I'll just quickly introduce them in those slides. So if you take a look at level 1, the entry level, really for the airport this is about doing a carbon mapping to understand where the emissions are occurring and having the policy in place to say that they are committed towards decarbonising. That's really that first step of an airport, and it can be a lot harder than it sounds. I mean, this is a policy commitment, and this is understanding where their emissions are occurring from. It's really a very important first step. Now, from a Schneider perspective, we can certainly help in putting solutions in place to help track where energy is being used, particularly electricity around the airport, as well as helping with that carbon footprint analysis. So the second level, and this is where we get down to business, the airport, to achieve level 2, needs to start implementing programs and initiatives that lead towards carbon reduction at the airport. So each year you've got to have carbon emissions reducing, or I think on an average of 3 years or something like that, but this is where action starts to occur. But it's just for Scope 1 and Scope 2. And here, again, Schneider starts to bring a number of solutions into play. Level 3 is where they start to take they start to tackle the tricky situation of Scope 3. And this involves stakeholder engagement with all of the other emitters in and around the airport. The airlines, the contractors, the other vehicles that they have, emissions through all of the supply chain as well. So 3+, and I'll cover 4+ as well. 3+ is very much the same as 3, but where the airport has decided to offset their current emissions by the purchase of offset credits or something along those lines. And hence they're achieving carbon neutrality in that regard. Level 4 is where it really starts to get serious. So this is where the airport not only has to be reducing carbon emissions for Scope 1, Scope 2 and Scope 3, but they have to be having it line up with the Paris Agreement, which in the industry pretty much has been accepted to mean hitting net zero by 2050 in order to keep emissions down to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. And that can mean implementing a lot of much more difficult initiatives beyond the low-hanging fruit that may have been looked at earlier. 4 is the same as 4+, plus you're getting the offsets to become carbon neutral. And 5 is to acknowledge those airports that have achieved net zero in line with the ACI accreditation program for Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions and are working on those Scope 3 emissions. So there are many different areas and many different initiatives, everything from sustainable aviation fuel for the airlines, all the way through to electrification, through to vehicles, electrifying vehicles, through to a lot of the other practices and changing, practices around the airports to reduce emissions. The areas that we're going to cover next are the areas where Schneider can assist and help. So that first one that lines up with basically level 1 and onwards is tracking your energy usage. Now, as many people may have heard, unless you understand where your energy is being used and you've got a benchmark of where the energy is going, it's really difficult to then put initiatives in place to understand how they're performing against that. And this allows you to benchmark a lot of those initiatives, as well as find through analytics or other processes areas that should be improved. So it's a good way of initiating new programs. So the carbon footprint. So in the airport carbon accreditation program, at level 1 and level 2, you really just need to do a carbon footprint of your Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, those that are in the really direct control of the airport. But hitting level 3, you actually start to get a footprint of the Scope 3 emissions. Now, at level 3, it's a bit more limited, but once you hit level 4 and level 5, it's quite extensive, and it's expanded on the level 3. So pretty much all emissions that really result in Scope 3 of the airport, you really have to take a look at. And Schneider Electric, you probably saw the sustainability stand out there. We've got consultants who understand that industry, understand emissions, and can certainly assist there. There's also taking a look at the whole strategy. Now, a lot of airports, it's not their business to be necessarily doing a lot in sustainability. They're there to run an airport. That's their main operations. So they may be looking at net zero partners. They may be looking at consultants or others who can come in and really assist them in that journey to net zero by 2050. And there are many airports around the world that have made public commitments to that as well. So taking a look at defining that success, building that roadmap, putting a strategy in place, and then looking for the right initiatives that make sense for them and the timing of those as well. And of course, once those initiatives are in place, sustaining it as well, taking a look at how well they've gone and maybe even pivoting where necessary in order to ensuring that you're staying on that roadmap. Another area where Schneider can assist as well is with our EV charging offer. So you probably saw the EV charging offers and the microgrid offers that we had in the new energy landscape in the Innovation Hub. They are really just, as we see here, the tip of the iceberg. When you start to put EV charging in place, particularly if you look at all the vehicles at the airport, and then potentially plane electric charging in the future, if that technology comes into play. There may be eVTOL charging as well, and there's a number of airports that are looking to put in a vertiport. You add all those up, and there's a lot more energy required, a lot more electricity. And I've seen figures out in the market talking about airports needing 4 to 5 times the amount of electricity by 2050 compared to current day. We're not sure exactly where that's going to head. It really depends on what technologies they pick up and whether hydrogen starts to take off or sustainable aviation fuels as well. But it's certainly an area to take a look at. So behind those charges, there's the electrical distribution, there's potential for microgrid, there's the services, there's on-site energy as well, solar power, etc., and the managing of those. So rather than just changing energy to other sources or electrification, there's also the ability to become more efficient. So that's energy efficiency, and later we'll take a look at the operational efficiency as well. With energy efficiency, we've got certain control systems in place, like the building management system, where it can do a lot of smart things, making sure that energy is only being used when you need it, and making sure that energy is being optimised, and those control loops are being optimised as well. So again, this is an area that can help with the energy being used in the facility itself. And lighting and HVAC are two of the largest energy consumers in the terminal building. There's, of course, sourcing of energy. So if you're currently just connected to the grid and using the normal grid power, it's relatively high in carbon emission at the moment. But airports, and a number of them have signed power purchasing agreements for green energy sourcing. Schneider does have a division that can help there as well. So they're not the ones that supply those green energy, but they have a division that helps energy users marry up with suppliers, and they've got a professional team who can represent the client there. They can also help source those EACs, the energy attribute certificates, as well as energy offset, the carbon offsets as well. So across the new energy landscapes, we've got the microgrid offer. So this is an area that can also contribute towards decarbonisation. Its main purpose is really to make the best use and to optimise the use of on-site generation, as well as controllable loads that you may have. So it's the smarts behind that. Now, you can have solar power, you can have it offset energy pulling from the grid. That works, that's fantastic. Once it starts to get quite high, you might want to start doing smarter things with it. You might want to start putting in battery storage. You might want to start understanding when you use that, when you pull energy from the grid, when you charge the battery, when you don't, or controlling certain loads. This is where a microgrid can come in and add that intelligence and make the most of optimising your on-site generation as well as what you pull from the grid. So decarbonisation as a roadmap. So we talked about engaging suppliers and stakeholder engagement. Again, a sustainability service can assist here. So we talked about the residual carbon and the need to offset those. Again, a sustainability business can help you, source those carbon offsets on the open market and assist with levels 3+, 4+, and 5. The operational efficiencies. So again, if you're operating more efficiently as an airport, with better communications, with smarter operations, you use less energy as well. And this has other savings as well as decarbonising. And then there's the whole managing. So having a platform where you bring all those energy sources together, the procurement together, you have a single platform that really tells you how you're progressing with your energy initiatives as well. So measuring how those energy initiatives may be reducing your energy usage or decarbonising. A single platform for that can also be supplied. And there are many businesses out there that have implemented this. And that's taking a look at Schneider Electric as being a decarbonisation partner. Thank you for coming along. And I hope the rest of the day is, I think we're heading towards the end of it now. So enjoy. Thank you.